In this video, a car so many people will have learned to drive in, had as a first car, or their auntie had one. It's the K11 Nissan Micra. This is a 1996 example. It's a 1 litre shape edition. I don't know what that means. You don't seem to get any toys at all. We've got a busy little 1 litre engine and not much else. So let's have a look around. So the K11 Micra was introduced in 1992, and what really set it apart was the fact it was built in this country, in the UK, up at Sunderland, where they've been building Bluebirds before that. They then switched to building Micras and then Primeras and Almiras. So very much tuned to European taste in a way the K11 Micra hadn't been. This car was up against things like the Opel stroke Vauxhall Corsa B, hence the sort of cutesy shape, these sort of nice rounded headlamps. But actually another inspiration for this car was the Austin Mini, and it's not directly visible perhaps when you look at the car, but I think especially around the back, just a bit of the shape, the shoulder line, there is a hint. It's not a retro takeoff of the Mini, but you can tell the engineers were looking at it, and nowhere is that more apparent than under the bonnet, where, okay, it's a modern multi-valve engine. It's the CG series developed especially for this car, available as a 1 litre or a 1.3 twin cam 16 valve engine. So it doesn't look anything like an A series engine, but amusingly the two capacities at launch were 998cc as here and 1275cc for the 1.3. Those are two mini engine capacities, the two most popular engine capacities in fact. And I just think that's a beautiful nod. And given that Nissan genuinely has a link to BMC that developed the Mini by building cars under license, developing the B series engine itself in Japan, I just think that's a lovely touch to Nissan's own heritage. So production of the Micra began in the UK in late 1992 and ran through to 2003 when the K12 took over the frog-eyed face. So it was quite a long production run for this car, but it remained popular throughout. So let's see if we can find out what people loved about this little car. A nice solid clunk from the rather large door. This being a 3-door, you could get a 5-door as well. But in here, it's all very modern for its time, the early 1990s. Lots of soft curves everywhere, nothing too angular, a stark contrast to the K10 Micro, where everything had been designed with a ruler. This is a fairly lowly spec, so we have got a driver's airbag, but there really isn't anything else. 5-speed gearbox, blanking plugs, ahoy. Proper indicator noises, very, very nice. We've got a heated rear window and wipers, and that really is about it. There isn't a lot in here. The driving position is actually quite tall and upright. There's a good distance between the seat base and the floor, and I think that gives you just a sense of being higher up, and you don't feel quite so vulnerable. It's a really comfortable driving position actually. The steering wheel feels a little low. Oh, can we adjust it for height? Oh, we can. That's quite a fancy feature. There's not very much on it, but we can bring it up a little. That feels much more my style. But yeah, the pedals are straight ahead of me. There's even somewhere to rest my clutch sandal. So, you know, it's really not bad at all. And you were comparing this with cars like the Rover Metro, which was starting to feel its age a bit. This is quite spacious inside in a way I don't think the Metro is. So we better see what it's like in the rear. Squeeze myself in. Oh, there we go. And wow, actually behind the seat set for me, I have actually got enough leg room. And it is technically a 5-seater. I'm not sure I'd want another 2 of me in here, but it's a non-split seat on this model, but it does fold down to increase the load space. But yeah, that's actually surprisingly comfortable. Little elbow cut out there, but the rear windows don't open. So that's a bit of a downside. Perhaps because this is a lower spec Micra, it doesn't have an internal boot release, very rare on a Japanese car, and nor is there a handle to open it. You have to use the key. That is a mild annoyance. But if we open the boot, it's a decent size. We've already got some baggage in here. And is there a spare wheel underneath? I feel there should be. Yeah, it's a little full-size spare wheel under there. Power Star tyres. Interesting. So yeah, it's a decent little boot. You're certainly going to get a fair amount of shopping in there, and like I say, you can fold the seat easily, take the parcel shelf out. A proper practical shape. Let's fire up the little 1 litre engine. It's a fairly modern engine, so fuel injection, it starts readily. Windscreen wiper test, and a very good performance. So much of the windscreen is covered, just enough overlap to avoid a triangle of doom here, and not much of a corner of disappointment, I'm going to say. That's a very good wiping performance. We shall check the rear, especially as we got the rear washer fixed especially for this test. So this blade is a little tired, so it's not quite doing its full sweep, but that is a good chunk of rear wiper that is clean. So I'm going to say that's an excellent rear wiper performance. Wiper parks vertically like on a Volkswagen Golf Mark 1, Mark 2. But let's go for a drive. No power steering, really don't need it. It's not heavy steering at all, even at these slow parking speeds. And with 54 brake horsepower and not very much weight, it's actually quite a nippy little car. I would say performance is feeling almost on par with the K10 1.2 I drove last year. That's a very light car. I think it just demonstrates how far engines have come in that short time. 16 valve engines, fuel injection by the early 90s were de rigueur. They were the way to go. We've got very low fuel, so we're going to go and find some petrol, I think. No rev counter because this is your Povo spec, but you know, we've got an ashtray with £2 in it, so it's not all bad. So I'm not revving the engine too hard because it's still warming up, but that's our 40 miles an hour. And as the speed builds, so does the road noise, and that's a bit of a shame because it's otherwise fairly refined. Fifth is quite close to fourth. That's not a great change of ratio. So it does mean by 60 miles an hour it's sounding a little bit revvy, which is a bit of a shame, but the steering very nice and direct and just feels very composed and confident. But yeah, these cars were so popular for driving schools, and also obviously as first cars because they were cheap to insure, cheap to buy. Sadly they did rot, which is why they've become ever so rare. I was really pleased to get my hands on this example because pre-facelift K11s are getting very hard to find. They're actually very popular for auto testing because they've got punchy engines, lightweight, really good handbrakes. They are very popular for auto testing, dancing around cones in car parks. Yeah, otherwise it just feels typically Japanese. It's just exceedingly competent. The ride is perhaps a little jiggly compared to some of the European rivals. Peugeot's 106 just offering an uncanny ride really for a small car, and the Rover Metro doing a very good job with its revised hydrogas. But this is very much the era where city cars were starting to come away from just being at home in the city. They were very much at home out on the open road as well. So we'll see how much fuel this car takes. We're actually going to fill it up for our friends. But if you come around here, lovely little touches like that, just somewhere to put your fuel cap in the door. That's just really nice, user-friendly thing. That's quite nice too, yeah. But yeah, nice little features that just make everyday ownership all the more pleasant without you really realising. Oh, there we go. That's almost 31 litres to fill the tank from pretty much empty. And judging by the trip meter that have been reset, doing about 300 miles on a tank, if that's to be believed. So 30 litres for 300 miles, that's like mid-40s mpg, I think. Not bad, little car. Not bad at all. But already discovered that I don't need to bother with fourth gear. I'll just go straight into fifth at 30 miles an hour. And it pulls very happily indeed. It's a horrendous worst wiper noise ever. Yeah, it's just such a pleasure. It just pulls so cleanly and well, and that's definitely going to help your economy when you can potter along in 5th gear at town speed. Right, let's do some giveth of the beans, as Sarah and June would say. There's our 60. Yeah, there's really no point bothering with 4th gear. There's no point at all. This car does, it's got enough performance. I think it would struggle a bit fully laden. That crest catches us out every time. But yeah, you can get around and do whatever you want in this. It just doesn't sound that relaxing because of how short the gearing is. I imagine the 1.3 has taller gearing, so it's probably a bit more relaxed at motorway speeds, but you know, that engine is very happy to rev, so it's not like it's going to be horrendous when you're driving along. Oh, those wipers are horrendous. But yeah, that's a really nice package. This is the maturing of the city car, I think. So there we have it. That is the Nissan Micra K11. You can see why these cars were so popular, both with elderly drivers, younger drivers. It's just so simple, delightful, and they make great classics today because they're so good on fuel. So as long as you can find a non-rusty one, yeah, a superb car. So thank you very much for watching. Don't forget you can head to the Hubnut store if you wish and buy lovely merchandise. Support options are in the description below. But otherwise, we shall see you in a future video. Farewell.